Hello, writers. Come write with me. My name is Mykela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Mykela. I'm very glad to have you here on my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Before we get started, I would like to share a little news today. I am filming this today on March 6th, and it is my birthday, so happy birthday to me. For those who want to know my age, I am 2 cubed times 7. So the 2 cubed is 2 times 2 times 2. So it's 2 times 2 times 2 times 7. And I'll let you figure that out, and you can post it in the comments. And then I haven't been able to film for a while, so if you notice anything with my eyes, because I've been getting shots in my eyes and stuff like that, so I try not to film on the days when my eyes are kind of funky looking. Anyway, getting back into the script, today we are going to discuss a few terms or ideas, and then we will add to our cave stories. Oh, I'll show you my birthday present from my husband. Our first term is platitude. Platitude means a remark or statement, especially with a moral content that has been used too often to be interesting or thoughtful. Another definition is the quality or state of being dull or insipid or banal, trite, or stale remark, especially one uttered as if it were fresh or profound. Platitudes are overused, overly simplified. Let me try that sentence again. Platitudes are overused, overly simplistic statements that are often said in an attempt to offer comfort or wisdom to someone. People use platitudes during times of grief, disappointment, or personal struggles, as they can seem like a quick and easy way to provide reassurance. Some synonyms are cliche, truism, commonplace, banality, old chestnut, bromide, inanity, or tag. Now, that doesn't make a lot of sense if you just read it like that. So sometimes examples are helpful. So I'm going to give some examples of platitudes, and I'm going to comment after each one. So one would be, it is what it is. Okay, that doesn't tell us much. Another is, everything happens for a reason. If I'm grieving, that's not exactly comforting. Another is, time heals all wounds. Yeah, but what about right now? Another is, it could be worse. If I'm in the middle of a disaster or something traumatic, this is not something I want to hear. Another is, look on the bright side. I'm waiting for further comment because I can't see a bright side to this. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. In the immediate, no, this doesn't make me stronger. Down the road, maybe, but I can't see that yet. And the last one I'll share is, everything will work out in the end, if you say so. Okay, so you get the idea, and you kind of get the thoughts of the person that this is being said to, or possible thoughts of what the person, if you're in a traumatic situation and I said one of those to you, you would probably be thinking what I had commented. So you get the idea. How will this help us with our stories? First, those platitudes I read are used more for today's time. So adjust them for your setting. It is what it is. They may not have said that in the 1600s or the 1200s, or so you would have to you'd have to change it. So, but the reason I'm talking about platitudes today is we as writers need to know how people interact together. If a character is in a tremendous amount of grief and the other character wants to offer support, but can't comprehend the pain, or maybe the other character doesn't show sympathy or empathy, let's combine a platitude above with a real life situation and you will see what I mean. Say someone is thinking about moving and they found a house, but before they sell their house and move out, the kitchen cabinets catch on fire. The kitchen catches on fire. Now, a neighbor who is quite out of touch says, "Look at the bright side. You have a lot less to pack." That statement is a little bit disturbing. A better statement might be, "Look at the bright side. Everyone in your family is alive and safe. You can replace the things." Both statements are true. You do have less to pack. And your family is alive and safe. So, the second one might help you focus. The person that just experienced the things, help them focus on the better things. In our stories, we have characters. Even if we have personified plants or animals, we have characters. Therefore, knowing how people interact with each other is a good thing. Some people are out of touch. Some people can't feel for others, meaning they can't sympathize or empathize. And those are two great terms, which we will look at in a couple of weeks. But there are also people who feel extremely uncomfortable when someone else is in pain, and they just want to cheer that person up. Thus, platitudes might be how a character in your story handles the situation. This is your choice. You are the writer, and you get to get in your characters' heads and know how they feel and how they react to others. If you have what is this doing? Don't do that. Okay, so you know how they would react to others. So if you, and if you don't know this, if you don't know how people react, you can watch around. If you have a chance to take Psychology 101, you could do that, or read a book about different personalities. You could even take one of those personality tests for yourself, and then you can read about all the personalities in that style. There are different tests. There's some that divide people into like a morning person and evening, things like that. There's one that has 16 different personalities, one that has 4. There's all kinds of different tests out there. So you could read a book, you could take a course, you could take one of these tests and just read it. Now, I'm not advocating that the tests are going to be 100% accurate. This might define this personality as this. Sometimes you'll see some overlap between the personalities. But if you do these things, this can help you with defining the characters in your stories. And then it can also help you when you observe other people to observe their interactions. So that will help you know who's out of touch, who will say a platitude, that kind of thing. So leave a comment on a platitude that you've heard or said recently. Because sometimes, maybe we're a little bit uncomfortable. We don't know how to cheer somebody up. We don't know how to handle the situation. So we might have said something, one of those platitudes also. Our next term is panacea. Panacea means a solution or remedy for all difficulties, ills, or diseases. Some synonyms are universal cure, cure-all, cure for all ills, universal remedy, sovereign remedy, heal-all, nostrum, elixir, wonder drug, perfect solution, magic bullet, Catholicon, Diacatholicon, Panpharmacon, and I can tell you that Word doesn't like those last two words. It has them red underlined. But I got those from Google. When I look up these words, I get all the synonyms and stuff from there. Anyway, how can we use this in our stories? Especially if there's no disease in our story. Well, this is a cure for difficulties as well. Now, maybe I'm going to stretch this word a little bit, or I am stretching this word a little bit, but think of Indiana Jones. His panacea was his hat. He could handle any difficulty if he had his hat, right? He would even risk his life to go back and get it. It was like he needed it. It kind of made some comedy in the movie, but it could be considered a panacea. Also, in history, many cultures have a village idol that refers to a deity that they worship, and often it's in the form of a statue that is placed in the village boundary or within the community, and the village people believe it to act as a guardian. This computer is driving me crazy today. This would be a panacea that would prevent difficulties from harming villagers or from harming the village. Now, if we go that route, then children that carry around a blanket are carrying around their own panacea. It's like Linus and Charlie Brown. You know, he carries his blanket. That's his panacea. Because he's carrying, or children that do that, they're carrying around something that makes them feel better. There are also items of religious jewelry or scapulars like crosses and stars of David that movies have used as panaceas. In The Mummy, one character wore a whole bunch of these. And when he met the mummy, he pulled up one. It was like a cross or something. And he would start saying the prayer or incantation. The mummy still came from him. He pulled up another one, and then he pulled up the Star of David, I think, last. And he said a prayer in Hebrew. Thankfully for this character, the mummy understood Hebrew and decided the character would be a good interpreter for him. In our stories, our characters can use a religious item or a rabbit's foot or anything else to protect them from difficulties. It's kind of like a mindset kind of thing. Now, that by no means says that the panacea has to work as planned, like the cross for the guy and then whatever was next, and he kept pulling up the oh, this one where the mummy stopped. So the first one did work, second one didn't work, so it doesn't have to work as planned. You can also use the reverse. Like, say an enemy or antagonist steal a panacea, such as an idol from a village, and bad things start happening, and the villagers want the hero to find and replace it to save them. In fact, in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, the villagers tell Indy that someone stole the stone that protects the village. And since the theft of the lingam stone, the children start going missing. And they're missing like lots of children, and they're so sad. They don't have the children. They don't know where to get them. The stone is gone. They can't protect their village. So Indiana Jones has to go into the Temple of Doom, and he finds all these kids, and they've been made slaves and stuff like that. And he brings the stone back to them, and they replace it. So that's an idea for a story. And I had another idea just pop into my head just a minute ago. Oh, in Stargate series. It wasn't necessarily a panacea, but there was an item on one of the worlds that controlled their weather. And so somebody came and stole that item and brought it back to Earth. And it actually started messing with the weather on Earth. Cataclysmic things started happening on Earth. So they had to go find that item and replace it. So it wasn't necessarily panacea because it actually did something, but you can start with an idea and then you can go to the next step like that too. So these are just ideas for your stories. You can have a fountain of youth to cure ills and keep your characters young. You can have an artifact such as the golden hand of Midas that turns things to gold, so your characters are financially set. You can have any number of lucky charms to protect against difficulty, and your characters can deeply believe in such superstition. Like in Indiana Jones, the missing stone wasn't the issue. It was the other people stealing the children, and that the other people actually stole the stone too. So they felt a sense of powerlessness and hopelessness without the stone. But the missing stone didn't cause all the bad stuff. So they believed it. That's the thing, is we're trying to get into the mindset of the characters, trying to figure out what they believe, how they feel, how they respond. Do they have superstitions? And that's how you make your stories real and believable and stuff like that. And certainly you're going to have people that have used platitudes that are out of touch. You know, Indiana Jones could have used a platitude. Oh, it's not real. That's not why you're having trouble. You know, just look at the bright side. Look at all the children you have left. You know, that kind of thing. He could have used a platitude, but that wouldn't have moved that story. So it didn't work in that story. Leave a comment on a show, book, or movie that uses platitude or that uses panacea. Sorry. Leave a comment on a panacea. I think I switched the words here. Leave a comment on a panacea in a show, book, or movie. In The Keys to the Kingdom that I'm reading by Garth Nix, the keys are a panacea of sorts. And actually it kind of works, because when author had the first key cured author's asthma for a time. But then, like in book 2 and 3, he doesn't have the key. So just being in the house, which is this interdimensional thing. So if he's in the house, he doesn't feel the effects of his asthma. But if he goes to the secondary realms, he feels it. So, but in the first book, he had that key, and he knew he could breathe better. So, and he didn't know why. So he just clutched the key and kept the key with him. So that kind of a panacea. But like I said, you can start with something like a good luck charm and then turn it into like an actual device that does do work or works for a certain purpose. So, or I just got another idea. What if you had something like that somebody or the village or whatever thought was a panacea, and the antagonist didn't take it, but instead they installed like audio equipment or visual equipment or whatever, because they knew that the village would never get rid of it, and so that they were able to actually use the panacea to spy on the people. That would be an interesting twist. You could do that too. Now, that brings us to our cave stories. First, remember, all works shared on the channel are copyright protected, so there's no worry. Share your works by sending your writings to writewithmykela@gmail.com. I look forward to reading your stories and your writing prompts on the channel. Now, we are on part 22. We started working on this story in season 1, episode 25. And I'll list the rest of the episodes in the description below in case you want to go and you want to watch just the story and watch part 1, part 2, part 3, like that if you wanted to do that. So that will be listed in the description below. Excuse me. When we started, we wrote about a scary cave, and we set the mood. That was what we were working on. That was our original writing prompt. And we actually wrote about a peaceful cave first. We set the mood as peaceful, and then we came back and we wrote again. We set the mood as scary. And I really enjoyed the scary cave, so I just decided to use it. I'll also list the plot in the description below, too. And if you're starting today, that's perfectly fine. Send it in for us to read on the channel. Now, if you are starting today, then you probably need to watch episode 125 to see how to set up the mood of that cave, and then you can read the plot afterwards. Because the mood was part of and it's not in the plot. The plot was pulled out after. Now, if you've been writing, to continue writing on this, ask a question and write a scene to answer it. Reread what you've written or what you wrote last time. Stop and define your characters to yourself. Does this character use platitudes? Does this character have sympathy? Excuse me. Define your characters to yourself so you know their histories. You know what makes him or her tick. You know how they're going to respond to other people. So you need to know your characters. So stop and do that every once in a while. And that way you kind of see, okay, this character has gone off of where I had them. Do I want to redefine them or do I want to adjust the story? And that's part of the edit. And then also to continue, you need to ask yourself, what's the struggle? What's the outcome I'm heading towards? Have I made things too easy on my protagonist? Now, remember, the most important thing is to have fun with your writing. I have so much fun. If I never get published, I've kind of hung up that hat, but I have fun. And I love my stories. I love my characters. I love writing. So, I'm having fun. And that's the most important thing for you as well. If you don't like your story, edit it. We have such easy time with Microsoft Word. We delete. We can put the cursor anywhere. We can add anything. We can take out any part that we don't like. We can enhance the parts we do like. We can take a section and move it down or up to where it would fit in better and flow better. That's the editing. So if you don't like your story, edit it. Make it what you want. And then, once you get to where you like it, see if you can create an intriguing protagonist with an active goal or problem, some high stakes, and a ticking clock. You need those things to create a good story, along with interrelated events that build to your climax. Pause the video, add to your cave, come back, and I will read what I added. Welcome back, writers. Now I will read what I wrote. In the middle of the night, Zolera awoke to the strange screeching sounds she heard the night before. She rolled up and went to the adults crouching near the tunnel entrance. They had red light lanterns, so she could somewhat see. "Is that your octopus monster?" asked a man. Zolera nodded. "Yes. At least I hope it's the same one and there aren't two. I did tell you that salt worked, didn't I?" A couple of the adults showed their supply of salt that they had at the ready. Then suddenly the octopus lifted several of its arms up and hit the ceiling with them. Then it lowered itself by stretching out its legs in the different directions, and instead of having its legs pulled up under itself, and then it left the cave. Zolera couldn't believe it, but she was glad there were other adults with her to help with the children. She reflected on how the doctor had come in just in time to fix a broken leg. The doctor had a handheld x-ray machine, and she had said the break wasn't too bad. Zolera had been glad for that. But what would she have done if the children hadn't made it back? Commander Thurnall rolled to his bag. He was having trouble sleeping. Some of it had to do with all of Jose's comments as they walked. Other people had offered to take a turn carrying the bazooka, and Commander Thurnall felt like everyone wanted to know what Jose learned. As he turned his back, a shadow fell across his face. The moon was bright out, and there weren't really any trees. Commander Thurnall sat up to see what made the shadow when the perimeter alarm went off. As the perimeter alarm sounded, Commander Thurnall heard a screeching sound that he had never heard in all his life. His men and women had scrambled up, and lights pointed to the screeching thing, and he couldn't believe what he saw. "Man, I must be 20,000 leagues under the sea," stated Commander Thurnall. And they all started firing their weapons. One of the arms of the thing swept up and out and knocked the perimeter down, or slung it to the other side of them was more like it. Commander Thurnall glanced at Jose. His hands seemed steady, and he was loading the bazooka. Hopefully, that would take the thing out. The creature swung several of its arms at them, and their bullets didn't seem to face it at all, unless it was making it mad. One arm knocked Commander Thurnall back, and Commander Thurnall felt as if the creature had hit him with a saguaro cactus. He felt his flesh rip, and he cried out in pain. Then he heard the loud boom. He laid his head back to breathe a sigh of relief. But he heard Jose scream. Commander Thurnall lifted his head and saw the creature flinging his people away. He closed his eyes and thought, "How do I fight this thing?" After several more screams, the creature moved on. Commander Thurnall raised his head and watched it go, but he dared not speak yet. When he could no longer see it in the moonlight, he whispered to ask the condition of his group. It seemed everyone was alive, but they had multiple wounds. Back at the cave, several adults had followed the octopus creature to the opening, and they watched it leave. They weren't sure what to do. A few wanted to follow it to make sure if they decided to move their camp, it wouldn't be where the octopus roamed, but it headed straight out, and that wasn't the way Zalira had sent the children. So they waited. About an hour later, they heard screams. So one of the adults went to Commander Nyson and Zalira to see if they knew who the screams were coming from. The guess was Commander Thurnall, but Commander Nyson suggested that Zalira think with Commander Thurnall and get a report. Zalira sighed. Her and Missant had talked some since their groups joined, and Zalira knew that Commander Nyson had been depending on Missant to think, but now he was asking her. Zalira crossed her legs under herself and tried to think with Commander Thurnall. Commander Thurnall received, "My group heard some screams. Did you hear them too?" Commander Thurnall raised his head again. He hadn't moved because the ones in his group not hurt were checking the wounds of those hurt, and they hadn't gotten to him yet. He thought, "Those screams may have been from us. We saw an unbelievable creature. I feel like I have cactus thorns all in my body." Zalira thought to him, "Cactus thorns? From an octopus?" Commander Thurnall thought, "Well, it felt like a cactus. I'm not sure I have actual thorns. But yes, the creature looked like an octopus. It had at least 8 legs." Zalira counseled with the people in her group, so several from Maverick's group, including the doctor, were going out with a couple from Commander Nyson's group to see if they could find the group. Zalira thought to Commander Thurnall that she was sending some people to him. In the morning, the two groups were together, but they didn't all fit in the middle tunnel. The returning bats woke some who were just outside the tunnel, and then they saw the boar return. Jose wanted to get a sample from the boar, and Commander Thurnall let him go with a few others. Zalira thought that was absurd and asked why Commander Thurnall was letting Jose go. "We need to know what Maldrake is doing," stated Commander Thurnall. "It seems that some of his experiments have a degree of success, and I don't want to storm his fortress to meet something like that octopus." There was a general consensus on that, and then someone asked if the octopus returned and no one had seen it or heard it return. Then the groups caught each other up on what was going on. The general consensus was that with Maldrake's sweeps, it was getting harder and harder to live, and no one felt they could do anything to defeat Maldrake. After the conversation, a few rations, several groups left out of the cave to find a new place to set up and live. Once they left, Kilry whispered to Zalira to teach her to link, because she didn't feel right by just coming out here to live and abandoning the people that depended on the underground. Kilry's request shocked Missant, but Missant agreed to learn too. Several children sat in the circle with them. That's when Commander Nyson noticed. He inquired what they were doing, and after they explained, the doctor sat with them because she needed to get to patients. When they were ready to start, Kilry said, "I just don't like all the rules. We should be able to rescue prisoners and not just pop in and treat wounds. But I guess anything is better than nothing." Zalira hadn't heard anything from Cashwaldish in a while, but she heard tell Kilry that rescue and harm were two different things. That should be two different things. Zalira looked up and around. Then she remembered Cashwaldish and was glad she spoke up, and she told herself to be more cognizant of the spirit Cashwaldish, especially during these times. She relayed the message and then started teaching. In the middle, more from Maverick's group arrived, including Grant. Okay, writers, that's what I'm adding today. That's around 1250 words. Leave a comment on what you would do. Would you try to move farther away from Maldrake so he couldn't get to you? Would you try to understand his creatures so you could fight him? Would you try to learn to link to at least treat the wounded people in Maldrake's prisons? What would you do? What would you have your characters do if you were writing this story, this version of the story? Don't forget to send in what you just wrote with me today. Send it to me to read on the channel at writewithmykela@gmail.com. I would love to know what you found in your caves and where you went after that, if you got out of the cave, if you didn't get out of the cave, what's going on with your characters. Join me Friday for Eleni's Pride, Gaining Freedom, Chapter 20. Join me Tuesday for some jargon and Part 15 of A Down Soldier. Visit my website, bymykela.com, read some character bios, and send your unpolished writings and chapters to writewithmykela@gmail.com. And leave comments on your favorite characters. And it could be favorite characters on the website. It could be favorite characters in my books. It could be favorite characters in your books. Just whichever. It could be in a movie. What's your favorite character in a movie? If you were thinking that your favorite movie was Indiana Jones, maybe your favorite character is not Indiana Jones, but his shortstop is, I think, the sidekick that he had. I don't remember the little kid's name. Maybe that's your favorite character. Or maybe you liked the village leader that was telling about the idol. Well, so if you could just stop and think for a second, your favorite movie, your favorite book, favorite whatever, and list a character or two that is your favorite. List a favorite on the channel and stuff. And maybe say why you like them if you can. They are funny, or they're intelligent, or they're smart, or they're cute, or they add humor, or they're a problem solver, or whatever the characteristic is that you like. So, send that in. Where am I? Okay. I'm still accepting chapters from any of the shared plots. And I do have ideas to go back to the first one and rewrite that, but we're almost out of story for Eleni's Pride because there's only 25 chapters and we're reading chapter 20 this week. So I need to finish another stories to read on the channel. Otherwise, Fridays will drop off. I don't know that we want to do that. If you hit like and subscribe and the bell, then we will continue to write together and other people will have a higher chance of finding this video in this channel, since your likes will push the video out to a greater audience. Thank you for joining me today. I really, really, really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, please share with them. This is Mykela. with Right with Mykela. Bye for now.